there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me. Today, this is the stencil that we are going to be using to do some heat embossing through a stencil. So I have my 110-pound Nina Solar White card base, I have my 80-pound Nina Solar White card front, and then I'm just going to tack my rose stencil. This stencil is from Aliexpress and I'll link it down below. And then I'm just going to use some low-tack tape to tack it on to the back of my stencil. Now for this project, I have this embossing ink pad and a refill. Now since filming this, I have actually changed because I didn't really like the ink pad and I wasn't getting enough of it, so I used my refill to kind of tip some out onto an acrylic block, and that's why I'm using a finger dauber to do it that way. Now I have actually changed embossing inks since filming this video. I have tried quite a few embossing inks, different brands, with varied success, and to be honest, I have gone back and purchased one of the VersaMark embossing inks, which I'm much happier with. It is a little more expensive, and as I said, I tried out lots of other brands, but yeah, I have gone back to that one for a reason. So anyhow, I've changed since, but this is the one that I was dealing with at the time. So I'm using a finger dauber to make sure that I put on enough ink. You don't want to put on too much for obvious reasons, because you want there to be a nice crisp lines through our stencil. We don't want it to kind of smush all underneath. And once I think I've got enough on, I'm going to just take the stencil off the front of my paper, and then I am just going to kind of tilt it in the light. I know that you can't see on camera, but I can see in the light, and make sure that I think I've got a good coverage with my embossing ink. So now I'm just going to use some embossing powder from Wow. This is a gold metallic one. Sprinkle it over the top, and I've just got a little scrap sheet there to catch all of my embossing powder. And it looks pretty good to me. You might need to take a paintbrush and kind of get rid of some of the little stray bits and pieces, but not too bad. And then right there you see perfectly that I actually tapped it off to try and get off any excess embossing powder, and all of the embossing powder kind of comes off. And so again, this was one of the things I didn't like about this embossing ink. But anyway, I re-dunked it back in, just the embossing powder right then, and I did not tap it off, and that way most of the embossing powder stayed on. So it kind of worked out fine in the end. And I do really like the look of my embossed rose. I kept this card nice and simple because obviously I want the focus to be on that beautiful rose that we've created. But from here, I am going to create a sentiment to go on the front, and that is going to be this thank you sentiment. Now, I don't think I can find this anymore. I will see what I can do, but I am going to cut it right out of the center of my panel here. This is a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch panel, and you'll see why in a minute. I'm just going to die cut it, the whole thing out, and one of them is the outline, and one of them is kind of the skinny center that goes in the middle. And then for anything that gets stuck in my dies, I have this little tool from Ali that I picked up, and this is a perfect little poking tool that fits through all of those little holes, and I'm just getting out that skinny center writing. Everything pops out pretty good, so it's nice and easy. And then I'm going to keep that panel there. First of all, I'm going to use some Peacock Feathers Distress Oxide ink. You could use any inks that you were wanted to, and any colors, but I just really like the kind of turquoise color with the gold. And so I've colored the background thank you, and I'm going to glue on the little skinnier thank you onto the middle, and that way it just really kind of makes it pop. And as I said, I'm keeping it simple. This is a really clean and simple card that I've created, but I do really like it, and I really like how it finished up because it feels clean and simple yet kind of striking. So as I said, I'm gluing on all these little pieces here, and I'll do my best to find this for you. Any sentiment will work, obviously. And I'm just going to trim up my panel a little bit because I need something in the background, again, to kind of help it pop off the page. This would be fine if I popped it onto my white card base as well, but sometimes I find that a layer, a matting layer or a border just really helps things kind of come together. So if you feel a little bit stuck and your card doesn't look quite right, I definitely suggest trying a border. It may just be that little something that your card is missing. And so again, I'm just trimming up all my layers, and then as you can see, this is the panel that we cut the middle out of. I'm just going to kind of clean it up a little bit and cut all of the loose pieces out just to make life a little bit easier. And then with a scratch piece of paper, I am going to color this in the same peacock feathers that we used to color the background of the sentiment. And again, this is all about just kind of keeping the colors matching and reusing the same colors and giving it a little bit of a pop off the card. So I know that it looks a little bit funny to us, but no one will be any the wiser for knowing what is really underneath all of the layers. And now it's kind of just time to put the card together. So seeing as I heat embossed this panel, it's not really warped at all, but just to keep it all nice and flat, I'm going to use some nice strong double-sided tape. And this one is from Alena Crafts on Aliexpress. It is a very nice strong double-sided tape. And I'm just going to do that little trick where I lift up each of the four corners and that little bit in the middle, and that way I know I can line it up perfectly when there is going to be such a small, fine border around the outside. And then you can even see here that the border is really tiny at the moment. It is a very skinny border, but once you put it down on that next white layer, that is when it's going to make all the difference. So again, I'm going to use double-sided tape. You could definitely use liquid adhesive here or any kind of adhesives that you prefer to use. It doesn't really matter, neither here nor there. And just while I'm here, I really wanted to say thank you so much for all of your support on my channel at the moment. You guys have been amazing. I really appreciate the comments that you guys are leaving down below all of my videos. And to all of my new subscribers recently, there seems to be quite a few of you, so welcome and thank you so much for watching my channel, and I hope you're enjoying it, and I hope you guys continue to enjoy it. I'm trying my best to kind of keep things fresh and pass on as many tips and tricks and things as I can to help you guys in your card making. But anyway, back to the card. I'm just adding on a few little enamel dots. These are little glitter enamel dots, and they color matches perfectly to the turquoise. And that kind of finishes up the card. Very plain and simple, and definitely something that you can recreate with any stencils that you have, or even use multiple stencils. So I hope you give it a go. Let me know. I love to see pictures posted in our Facebook group, which the link is down below if you're interested. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, as I said, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.